Stop. Before you do anything else today, before you check another notification, before you scroll past this into the void of distraction, I need you to hear something that could alter the entire trajectory of your life. If you are under 40 years old and you are struggling financially, this message was made for you. Not for the masses, not for casual listeners, for you, the one who knows deep down that you were built for more than this. You are not broke because you are stupid. You are not broke because you lack talent. You are not broke because the economy is rigged, or because your parents failed you, or because you chose the wrong career, or because luck has passed you by. You are broke because no one ever taught you what I am about to teach you. The wealthy do not guard their money. They guard their knowledge. They guard the principles that create money in the first place. And those principles have been deliberately kept from you, not through conspiracy, but through neglect. Schools do not teach this. Parents who never learned it cannot pass it on. And so generations rise and fall, working hard, playing by the rules, and dying with nothing to show for it. But you are here now, and what you do with the next 20 minutes will determine whether you remain in the ranks of the struggling or begin the ascent that changes everything. Let me be clear about something. 40 is not a deadline. It is not a finish line. Men have built fortunes at 50, at 60, at 70, but 40 is a threshold, a point where the decisions you make begin to compound with terrifying speed, either toward wealth or toward permanent struggle. If you are under 40, you still have time, enough time to build an empire, enough time to create generational wealth, enough time to become unrecognizable to the person you are today. But that window is not infinite, and every year you spend without these principles is a year the compound effect works against you instead of for you. So listen carefully. This is not motivation. This is mathematics. This is the architecture of wealth that took me a lifetime to understand and that I am handing to you in a single hour. Let us begin. The first truth you must accept is the most painful one. Your current financial situation is not an accident. It is a reflection, not a reflection of your worth as a human being. That is immeasurable. But a reflection of your financial education, your financial habits, and your financial beliefs. Change those three things, and your bank account has no choice but to change with them. Most men reject this truth. They want to blame something external: the government, the rich, the system, their boss, their spouse, their childhood. And yes, those factors exist. Yes, some men start with advantages others do not have. But here is what I observed across 50 years of building wealth and studying those who built it alongside me. The men who blamed circumstances stayed poor. The men who took responsibility got rich. Not because responsibility is morally superior, but because responsibility is power. When you say, "This is my fault," you are simultaneously saying, "This is within my control." And what is within your control can be changed. The victim says, "The system is rigged against me." The titan says, "How do I rig my own system in my favor?" The victim says, "I never had the opportunities others had." The titan says, "How do I create opportunities from nothing?" The victim says, "It's too late for me." The titan says, "It's early enough if I start now." This is not positive thinking. This is strategic thinking. The victim and the titan may face identical circumstances, but their questions are different. And different questions lead to different answers, which lead to different actions, which lead to different lives. If you are under 40 and broke, you have been asking the wrong questions. That ends today. Let me tell you about a young man I met in Pittsburgh in 1882. He was 28 years old. He worked in one of my steel mills, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. His hands were scarred. His back was bent from labor. He earned just enough to rent a room and feed himself, with nothing left over. One evening he approached me after the shift whistle. He was nervous, almost trembling. But he asked a question that told me everything about his future. He did not ask for a raise. He did not complain about the hours. He did not ask for easier work. He asked, "Mr. Carnegie, what books should I read to understand how wealth is actually built?" I looked at this young man, covered in soot, exhausted, broke by any measure, and I saw something that money cannot buy. I saw hunger that was aimed at the right target. I gave him a list: Franklin's autobiography, chapters on political economy, texts on banking and capital. I told him the library was free and his evenings were his own. Most men in that mill spent their evenings in taverns, drowning their exhaustion in drink, rehearsing their complaints to anyone who would listen. This man spent his evenings in the library, building the mind that would eventually build his fortune. 3 years later, he had saved enough to invest in a small business. Within a decade, he owned 4 factories. He started with nothing, less than nothing. He started with debt and disadvantage. But he understood something that the other workers did not. The money was not the starting point. The knowledge was the starting point. The money would follow the knowledge as surely as the shadow follows the body. If you are under 40 and broke, your first investment must not be in the stock market, in real estate, or in a business. Your first investment must be in your own mind. Fill it with the principles of wealth, and wealth will have no choice but to appear in your life. Here is the second truth. You are not paid for your time. You are paid for your value. This single misunderstanding keeps more men poor than any other. The broke man thinks, "I worked 8 hours, so I deserve 8 hours of pay." The wealthy man thinks, "I created this much value, so I deserve a percentage of that value." Time is a commodity. Everyone has 24 hours. The man who digs ditches has 24 hours. The man who owns the construction company has 24 hours. They do not earn differently because their time is worth different amounts. They earn differently because the value they create is vastly different. The ditch digger creates value equal to 1 ditch. The owner creates value equal to 100 ditches, plus the system that produces them, plus the relationships that bring the contracts, plus the vision that sees where ditches will be needed next year. This is not unfair. This is leverage, and leverage is the great secret of wealth that the broke never understand. You do not get rich by working harder within a system. You get rich by building systems that work while you sleep, that scale beyond your personal effort, that create value you could never create with your hands alone. If you are under 40 and broke, ask yourself, am I selling time or am I building value? If you are selling time, you have a ceiling. There are only so many hours you can work. There is only so much your employer will pay per hour. You are trapped in arithmetic. If you are building value, you have no ceiling. Value can scale infinitely. Value can compound. Value can be packaged, sold, replicated, and multiplied. You have escaped arithmetic and entered exponential territory. This does not mean you must start a business tomorrow. It means you must start thinking like an owner today, even if you are currently employed. Ask yourself, how can I create more value than I am being paid for? How can I make myself so useful that opportunities have no choice but to find me? The man who consistently creates more value than he captures will never stay poor for long. The market will correct the imbalance. Either his employer will promote him, or a competitor will recruit him, or his own venture will emerge from the excess value he has learned to create. The third truth is one that will offend most people who hear it. You must stop being loyal to your poverty. I have seen this pattern hundreds of times. A man says he wants wealth. He says he is ready to change. But when opportunity appears, he retreats. When discipline is required, he negotiates. When his identity is challenged, he defends the very poverty he claims to hate. He says he wants to be rich, but he mocks the rich. He says he wants success, but he distrusts successful people. He says he wants abundance, but he feels guilty when good things happen to him. This is loyalty to poverty, and it is the invisible chain that keeps more men imprisoned than any external circumstance. Where does it come from? Usually from childhood, from parents who said money is the root of all evil without reading the full verse, from communities where ambition was seen as betrayal, from friends who called him bougie or sellout when he tried to rise, from a culture that celebrates the struggling artist but distrusts the successful businessman. These beliefs were installed in you before you had the ability to question them, but you have that ability now. And if you do not uninstall them deliberately, they will run in the background of your mind forever, sabotaging every attempt you make to build something greater. Listen to me carefully. Wealth is not evil. Wealth is a tool. It is morally neutral, like a hammer, like electricity, like fire. In the hands of a corrupt man, it amplifies corruption. In the hands of a good man, it amplifies good. The hospitals I built were not funded by poverty. The libraries I opened in every town across America were not gifts from the struggling. The thousands of workers I employed, the families I helped feed, the communities I helped build, none of that came from staying broke and calling it virtue. If you want to do good in this world, you need resources. And resources come to those who create value and capture a portion of it without apology. Stop apologizing for wanting more. Stop feeling guilty for outgrowing your circumstances. Stop being loyal to a poverty that has given you nothing but stress, limitation, and sleepless nights. You are allowed to be wealthy. You are allowed to build an empire. You are allowed to rise so high that your past becomes unrecognizable. Give yourself that permission. No one else will give it to you. Let me tell you about my own beginning, so you understand that these words do not come from a man who started with silver spoons and easy roads. I arrived in America in 1848. I was 13 years old. My family had nothing. We left Scotland because there was no future there for us. No work, no opportunity, no hope. My first job in this new country was in a cotton factory. I worked 12 hours a day for $1.20 per week. Not per day, per week. I did not feel wealthy. I did not feel destined for greatness. I felt exhausted, scared, and very far from home. But I made a decision in that factory that changed everything. I decided that I would not remain at the bottom. Not because I thought I was special, but because I refused to accept that this was all there was. I watched the men around me. Most of them had been there for years. They complained about the same things every day. They spent their small wages on temporary pleasures. They had no plan, no vision, no hunger beyond survival. I decided to be different. Not better than them, different from them. I learned everything I could about the factory. Not just my job, the whole operation, how the machines worked, where the materials came from, who bought the finished product and why. I made myself so knowledgeable that when questions arose, the foreman came to me, a 13-year-old boy, because I had answers the adults did not. That is when I learned the first great lesson of wealth. Knowledge is the first fortune. Everything else is built on top of it. By 18, I had moved from the factory to a telegraph office. By 24, I was investing in railroad companies. By 33, I had founded the company that would become the largest steel producer in the world. I did not have advantages. I had principles, and principles work for anyone willing to apply them, regardless of age, background, or starting point. If you're under 40, you are ahead of where I was when I started. You have more access to information than I could have dreamed of. You have tools for building businesses that did not exist in my era. You have advantages you do not even recognize because you are too busy cataloging your disadvantages. The question is not whether you can build wealth. The question is whether you will. Now let me give you the method, not philosophy, execution. If you are under 40 and broke, here is exactly what you must do. First, fix your mind before you fix your wallet. Your financial situation is a printout of your mental programming. If you try to change the printout without changing the program, you will always return to your starting point. Lottery winners go broke. Inheritance recipients squander fortunes. Meanwhile, self-made millionaires who lose everything rebuild within years because the program remains intact. Spend the next 90 days flooding your mind with the thoughts of wealth builders. Read their books. Study their lives. Listen to their words until their thinking becomes your thinking. This is not optional. This is the foundation without which nothing else works. Second, eliminate debt like your life depends on it. Debt is the chain that keeps the poor attached to their poverty. Every dollar you pay in interest is a dollar working for someone else's empire instead of your own. Before you invest, before you start a business, before you do anything else, eliminate high-interest debt with the intensity of a man escaping a burning building. Live below your means. Sell what you do not need. Take the second job temporarily, whatever it takes. Debt is an emergency, and you must treat it as such. Third, build an emergency fund, then build an investment fund. 6 months of expenses in a savings account that you do not touch. This is not optional. This is the barrier between you and the desperation that causes poor decisions. Desperate men make desperate choices. They take bad jobs, bad deals, bad partnerships. The emergency fund buys you the ability to choose wisely. Once that is established, every dollar beyond your expenses goes into assets that appreciate, not cars, not clothes, not gadgets. Assets, investments, things that grow while you sleep. Fourth, increase your income, not just your savings. Frugality has limits. There is only so much you can cut. But income has no ceiling. The man who earns $50,000 and saves 20% will always be outpaced by the man who earns $200,000 and saves 20%. Ask yourself, what skill could I develop that the market will pay a premium for? What problem could I solve that people will pay to have solved? What value could I create that does not currently exist? Your income is a reflection of your skills, your value, and your ability to communicate that value to the market. Improve all three relentlessly. Fifth, think in decades, not days. The broke man optimizes for today. He wants pleasure now, comfort now, status now, and so he sacrifices tomorrow for today, again and again, until there are no tomorrows left. The wealthy man optimizes for decades. He endures discomfort today so that tomorrow is secured. He delays gratification not because he enjoys suffering, but because he understands compound interest, the most powerful force in wealth creation. A dollar invested at 25 becomes many dollars at 65. A dollar spent at 25 becomes nothing. This math is simple, but it requires a time horizon that most men are unwilling to adopt. If you are under 40, you have decades ahead of you. Use them. Let compound interest work for you instead of against you. Make decisions today that your 60-year-old self will thank you for. I must tell you something that most wealth teachers will not say. This path is not easy. It is not quick. It is not comfortable. There will be moments when you doubt everything, when the progress feels too slow, when your friends are buying things you cannot afford and living lives that look brighter than yours, when the sacrifice feels pointless and the goal feels impossible. Those moments are the test. The man who quits in those moments returns to the masses, to the 99% who will work until they die and leave nothing behind. The man who perseveres through those moments joins a different group, the small percentage, who understand that all great things are built slowly, painfully, and against resistance, I am not promising you an easy road. I am promising you a worthy one. The man who builds wealth is not the man who avoids difficulty. He is the man who chooses his difficulty wisely. He accepts the difficulty of discipline, sacrifice, and patience so that he can avoid the difficulty of regret, poverty, and dependence. Both paths are hard. One leads somewhere, the other leads nowhere. Choose wisely. You are under 40. Time is still on your side. But time is not infinite. Every day you spend without these principles is a day you will not get back. Every year you delay is a year of compound growth you surrender to entropy. The best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time is now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when things settle down. Now, while the fire of this message is still burning in your chest. Now, before the old patterns reassert themselves and convince you that change is impossible. Most men who hear this message will do nothing. They will agree with every word and change nothing. They will let this be entertainment instead of transformation. They will return to their phones, their distractions, their comfortable poverty, and they will wonder, at 65, why life never changed. But you are not most men. You cannot be, because you have listened this far. Something in you recognizes this truth. Something in you is ready to rise. Something in you has been waiting for permission to become what you were always capable of being. This is that permission. You are allowed to become wealthy. You are allowed to build an empire. You are allowed to leave your old life behind and step into something so much greater that your current self cannot even imagine it. The only question is, will you? Let me leave you with this. Every fortune I built, every library I funded, every legacy I left behind, it all started with a decision. A decision made when I was young and broke and scared and uncertain. A decision to refuse poverty as my permanent address. A decision to learn what the wealthy knew and to do what the wealthy did. That decision is available to you right now, not someday, not when you're ready. Now. The vault is open. The knowledge is here. The path is clear. What remains is simply this. Will you walk it? If you are under 40 and broke, you have two choices. You can close this message and return to the life you have been living, the one that brought you here, struggling, searching, hoping for change. Or you can decide right now that you will never be the same. Decide that you will learn what must be learned, that you will do what must be done, that you will become who you must become, that you will look back at this moment years from now and recognize it as the turning point, the day you stopped drifting and started building. The world will not make this decision for you. Your circumstances will not change on their own. No one is coming to save you. But you do not need saving. You need awakening. And you are awake now. The fortune is waiting. The legacy is waiting. The life you were meant to live is waiting. Rise and claim it.